Welcome to the American Songbook Association Sunday Session Series. This series is an ongoing fundraiser for our expanding education programs. The ASA reaches thousands of students across the country teaching jazz, musical theater, and the Great American Songbook in an effort to preserve and promote those timeless American musical legacies. This programming also benefits Cabaret Scenes, the official magazine of the American Songbook Association, devoted to covering live music in the United States and Europe. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Sunday Sessions and that you'll consider a donation to the American Songbook Association. Every dollar helps us achieve our mission to keep this wonderful music playing. $65 gets you a one-year membership to the ASA and a year's subscription to Cabaret Scenes magazine, as just one benefit of membership. See the banner at the bottom of your screen for details or go to www.americansongbookassociation.org for more information. And now the ASA and Cabaret Scenes are pleased to introduce your host, Carolyn Montgomery.
Hello and welcome to this 20th episode of Sunday Sessions for the American Songbook Association. The entire board and I welcome you to this fun and entertaining Sunday afternoon episode. I'm particularly excited about our next guest. In fact, so excited that 15 years ago, I produced a series called Roasts, Toasts, and Tributes. It was produced in wonderful rooms like the Metropolitan Room, the St. Clement's Theater, and the Lucille Lortel Theater. The thing that each recipient of the Roast, Toasts, and Tributes, there were 7 people that won the Sidney Myer Award for excellence in cabaret. It was a beautiful little Tiffany star, and some of the recipients were Julie Wilson and Jim Caruso, people that gave tirelessly of their time to the world of New York City cabaret. And I was inspired to produce this by the man who has been called the funniest man in cabaret, the most beloved man in cabaret, and the most iconic man in cabaret. Certainly, he is a person who has influenced New York City cabaret as much as any human being on the planet. And he truly, when people say he needs no introduction, well, yeah, he does. I've just spoken for 2 minutes on purpose because he is one of the most beloved people in my life. He is Sidney Myer. Hi, Sidney.
Well, hello, Carolyn, dear.
You know, this technology thing is going to be the death of both of us. Sid, when I started this series, I had no idea what I was doing, and I thought, I'll never get Sidney on here. He's never going to figure out, and you did. You figured it all out.
Well, I have help. I'm still back with an abacus and a piano roll.
I know. No, me too. And what I love is when the youngins say things in tech talk and they say, just hit D3 and do the thingy-me. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't know what you're talking about. How are you?
Well, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
We are thrilled to have you. And I'm not going to, well, here we are. You are the cover boy for this month's Cabaret Scenes. And I'm going to leave something to the people that are going to want to read this amazing, amazing article by Peter Levy. But I am going to ask you a few things. Many of our viewers are students that have been a part of the American Songbook Association's education program. So though you have many fans watching you today, you also have young people in high school and in college that are seeing you for the first time. And they know something about you. I've talked to them about you, but they want to know a little bit of your backstory. So I know that you were born just outside of Philadelphia. Did you come from a show business family?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. It was a very somewhere that's green background suburb. But I was very fortunate to have parents that were open to my, interests.
Yeah.
And so I would get to see theater in New York. And in those years, many famous celebrities came through Philadelphia area.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. My first big musical was seeing Hermione Gingold at the People's Light and Theater Company in A Little Night Music. And I was 6 or 7 years old. You and I grew up next to each other, similar spots outside of Philadelphia. So it wasn't a show business family, but your parents appreciated music and theater?
Yes. And I would announce that we were going to see shows, and they would agree.
How nice of
Most
them.
grateful.
Did you have any training? Did you study any instruments or singing or anything like that when you were in school?
No, really, no. And that could be quite obvious, but anyway, no. I look back now, and I think that seeing so many of the greats of the 20th century was my education, live and in person, seeing them.
Yeah. Sidney, who inspired you when you were young? Do you remember the things that inspired you, be it television or theater personalities or music?
Yes. No, it sounds like such a cliche, but I was sitting in front of the television watching, those wonderful variety shows back then.
Oh, yeah.
That brought, wherever one lived in America, the music came to them on the radio and the television. One didn't have to look for it. And there was a period a few years ago, for a few decades, and one did. But now with YouTube and everything, it's there again. But I remember vividly, and this might sound stereotypical, but yet it's true. I saw Judy Garland as an adult perform, and that was a moment I couldn't articulate. I mean, I just was captivated.
Where did you see her?
Well, first on television, and in those years, I had a Christmas club. I think you put a quarter away every week. The intention was to buy presents for others, but at the end of the year, I wound up buying the Judy at Carnegie Hall album.
Well, it keeps on giving. It turns you into the performer you are.
Well, and then I was fortunate enough to see her live numerous times and meet her. And to this moment, I mean, my mother was a gracious lady and a teacher, would always say it's not a competition. Mm-hmm. But to this moment, no one, that her in-person performances, as powerful and as heart-wrenching as she is on television or recordings or films, in person it was beyond anything I could ever imagine. And seeing her was like and meeting her was like meeting E.T. Electrifying.
Sure.
Electrifying.
Yeah, no, Judy Garland had that. She evoked the most passion and raw emotion, and she did it unconditionally across the board, whether it was in a 80-year-old man or a 12-year-old girl. She caught us all of us. It was amazing. So no formal training, just the knowledge that you wanted to be an entertainer. And so you went off to New York City?
Well, I did. I went to Emerson College for 4 years, and I didn't study theater, although it's a wonderful theater school. I was in communications, and then, but I through a series of flukes, I wound up in the spring musical. I was the man in the gym in West Side Story. Crazy.
Man in the gym.
And I met theater people and friendships, which are such important in our lives, got me to New York. And yes, and through the years, I did take acting classes and things, but I was always aware of all the things I wasn't, meaning, I knew I wasn't a leading man or a Shakespearean actor or a tap dancer, or I couldn't sing If Ever I Should Leave You. I mean, I was always very realistic about where I might fit in. And if I wasn't, there were plenty of people around to tell me where I would go.
Yeah, well, anybody that's worth their salt in Cabaret, either as a critic or a performer, will tell you that being your authentic self is exactly what makes somebody a star. And it seems to me, I love listening and reading to how people describe you, because there's nobody like you. And you seem to have that, you've tapped into that authenticity so beautifully. From the moment, it seems, you walked onto stages in New York, I'd like to play a clip of you at the 1988 MAC Awards. And what catches me so much about this clip is not just how great, how wonderful the performance is, how on fleek it is, as they say, as the youngins say, meaning that it was very, very big for 1988, but the audience response to you. And so I'm going to play this. This is Sidney Myer at the 1988 MAC Awards.
Peel me a grape, crush me some ice, skin me a peach, save the fuzz for my pillow, start me a smoke, talk to me nice. You gotta wine me and dine me, don't try to fool me, bejewel me, either amuse me or lose me. I'm getting hungry. Peel me a grape. Get me Marjorie Lord on the phone, and General Noriega, and Baby M, poor thing. Pop me a Coke, French me a fry, crack me a nut, bring a bowl full of bonbons, chill me some wine, keep standing by, just entertain me, champagne me, show me you love me, kid glove me, best way to cheer me, cashmere me. I'm getting hungry. Peel me a grape. When is June Allison bringing me more? Depends. Here's how I'll be an agreeable chap. Love me, come on. Leave me, come on, in luxury's lap. Hop when I holler. Skip when I snap. When I say do it, jump to it. Oh, send for the scotch. Call me a cab. Cut me a rose. Make my tea with the petals. Just hang around then, pick up my tab, never outguess me, Lou tests me, Mercedes Benz me, soft lens me, 21 club me, hot tub me, Calvin Klein brief me, gold leaf me, penthouse duplex me, Rolex me, cabaret beat me, house seat me, never besmirch me, strip search me, new Thunderbird me. You heard me? I'm getting hungry. I never met a butter cookie I didn't like. Peel me off! Dip! Dip! Time's a-wasted!
If you're just joining us, this is the American Songbook Association Sunday Sessions 20th episode with Sidney Myer. You just saw a clip from him in the 1988 MAC Awards. That song was on every chart. Diana Krall had just absolutely crushed it. It was everywhere, and you made it your own. It was wonderful. And fun. Now, in 1989, that was the beginning of the Don't Tell Mama era, correct?
Yes. Preceding Don't Tell Mama, I worked 7.5 years and managed a wonderful, delightful little cabaret called Panache.
Panache, and yeah.
And that was connected to the Magic Pan restaurant. And then in 1989, I joined Don't Tell Mama.
Right. And so, and are to this day, the booking manager at Don't Tell Mama. And I want to ask you a couple of questions about that, because very few people get to enjoy that much time as something evolves and grows and changes. And so you know a lot, you've seen a lot. May I ask you, first of all, what was the, do you have any memories of some of the weirdest and oddest acts you've ever booked at Don't Tell Mama?
Oh, well, I don't know if I would ever categorize anyone as weird or odd.
Surprising, and unexpected.
Well, it's been an institution from the day it began in 1982. And so many people have come through those doors who have, well, because as we know, Cabaret is the first open door when one arrives in New York, whether you come from Paris or Pittsburgh, like Billy Porter, or Peoria, before anyone knows you to put you in a show, you put yourself in a show. And so I have been fortunate enough to cross paths with many, many great talents, and quite a number of them have gone on to the world stage.
Yeah. And and of course, I knew you wouldn't name any names. You're far too nice to say, that Carolyn Montgomery was the weirdest act I ever saw. I just didn't know if Don't Tell Mama had ever branched out to, plate spinning or monkeys or anything like that.
Well, I have. I'm very open-minded.
Yeah.
I have booked animal acts.
You have.
I have booked, people that ate glass and put light bulbs in themselves. And we've had a whole evening of Polish poetry. I mean, art is art wherever you find it.
There you go.
I'll tell you what's more interesting to me and keeps me open-minded are so many people I saw at the very beginning. And I don't have a crystal ball. I would never know how anyone would progress. I think there's so many factors in success. Yes. And talent there's never a dearth of talent. They're all very gifted, but who knows who it will happen for. And just one I could elaborate, but one particular I remember that's sort of contemporary for me is we used to have so many comedy shows at Don't Tell Mama on a regular basis. And often I was asked to host them. It wasn't my show, but they were variety shows. The Pool Party, you were in them.
That's right.
And complete unknowns right up to people like Joy Behar, established artists. And there were many sort of variations on the Pool Party. There was a gay and lesbian comedy night. There was Christmas in July. There was an improv night. There was an Indian pool party. Really? And this was a group of Indian comics. And most of their audiences were of that, extraction. And this was like 20, 25 years ago. And all the talent was very good, but there was this one young man who was sort of nondescript, and he was sort of very quiet, and he was amusing, but not in a way that would necessarily dazzle you. And I would sit there, and he was a lovely little fellow, and I would think, what could happen for him? I mean, at that time, really, there was no diversity to that point in television or film or commercials. I thought, what really is the path for him? Well, the days fly off the calendar as they do in those old films. Sure. And suddenly he has his own television series and is a movie star and headlining Madison Square Garden and on the cover of GQ, Aziz Ansari.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, there's a perfect example of you just don't know. And it is so many different factors that go into a commercially successful career. But having said that, do you feel when you've seen some people that have risen to whatever success means, but to some notoriety in their field, have you known when you've seen them when they first came to Don't Tell Mama and thought, oh, that one?
Well, I would think anyone with half an eye could see what these people had. And because one might say I'm a cabaret elder now, but I'd like to say I have the gift of time. 10, 20, 30, 40 years later, in many cases, I'm watching the Tonys, the Emmys, the Grammys, the Oscars tonight, and all of a sudden, someone is winning. Yeah. And I have a flashback to being in a room with this person, and there may have been 8 people in the audience.
Yeah.
And yet I thought, oh my gosh, if the stars align and the world sees what I see, this person will join the firmament. And they do in many cases.
Magical. Yep. It is very magical to see that trajectory and to see the stars align that way. So, Sidney, for our viewers that are watching that for all of us, what would you recommend to somebody that was starting out in the business? What would you tell them to do along their path? Now, I know that's a hugely broad question, but are there just any rules that you, or advice that you would give to somebody if they came to you and said, Sidney, I really, really want to be a singer? What would you tell them to do?
Well, I would always be encouraging, because I could never pass judgment on anyone's talent. That is something I could never do. And I know the business is full of that. That's what makes the business the business. But I have seen so many people grow and transform. And I think there are many ingredients. I think any class anyone can take for anything. Training is invaluable, a technique, but also you meet other people and you have a camaraderie, and that can lead to things too. Most every great opportunity for me just happened because I knew somebody who just happened to say something. And as long as something is legal, do everything you can do whenever you're asked.
And see everything that you can see, because I've known you for a long time, and I've never seen anybody who goes to 3 shows a night at his own club, and then if he I've looked out into the audience when I've been singing at any given place, and there you are. And I think, I know he's been to 2 shows at his own club, and he's probably going to go see somebody after me. And I do think that contributes to who you become as a performer. I'd like to play another clip. And the reason why is because you hear a lot of people, performers, when they're in an interview, talk about staying relevant, as though you could lose your relevance because time goes by. But I think what they mean is staying in the game. And that's one thing that you've always done, is stayed in the game, gotten up and performed. I've got a clip of you performing in Susie Mosher's lineup at Birdland. You are talking about actually master classes. Marilyn May, I think, is in the audience. Yes. And you talk about her, and I just love this clip so much, and clearly so does everyone else. Here we go.
This is a god, this is a cabaret legend. Ladies and gentlemen, Sidney Myer! He's a good-looking man. He's a good-looking man. Sidney, how long have you lived in this damn city?
I think since the Spanish-American War.
Was Don't Tell Mama's there then?
It was there.
It wasn't there? Now, has Marilyn May ever lived at Don't Tell Mama? Maybe.
Miss May guides a lot of people.
That's right, you teach. That's right, and they perform there. Master classes, yes.
5 hours and no break.
Yeah. Wow, that is masterful. That is masterful. All right.
That's an art in itself.
Yes. Have you taken one of her classes, Sidney?
I've observed.
Yes. I'd like to observe myself. Well, Sidney, I'm just going to scootle away and let you take the stage. Take your throne, oh king of cabaret. Yeah.
Please say hello to Miss Tracy Stone.
Oh, sorry, I introduced you. My bad.
No question about it. A man is a problem. He'll drive you out of your mind. He'll cheat and deceive you. That is, if you let him. And yet, you'll find it's so nice to have a man around the house. Oh, so nice to have a man around the house. Someone sweet who's glad he found you, who will put his arms around you, and whose kisses just astound you. It's so nice. Well, a house is just a house without a man. He's the necessary evil in your plan. There are many things about him you just cannot do without him, though it's just a constant game of cat and mouse. Meow. It's so nice to have a man around the house.
Oh, there we go. Wow. I love that so much. I didn't want it to end. Susie was our last guest on the show, and I thought she was so lovely and fun. She's terrific.
Yes.
Oh, hold on. We seem to be having are we having any kind of a audio problem here?
Well, I can hear you.
Good. You can hear me. Good. Excellent. For a moment, I couldn't hear myself. And as I am the tech person on this, which is very, very scary and a very low bar, occasionally we shut out or I play videos twice. It's a little bit flying by the seat of my pants. So during the pandemic, I mean, all of us were somewhat taken by surprise. Were you?
Oh, yes. I was in shock and numb. I mean, I have a vivid imagination, but who could have ever predicted this and the toll it would take on everyone?
I listen to podcasts when I'm cooking at night for dinner for my family. And Rachel Maddow actually came on, and she had a health expert who had said that things were about to radically change in our lives. And I remember stopping and thinking, well, that sounds a little dramatic to me. Yep. A week later, we were shut down. So don't tell mama shut down. Obviously, a year's worth of bookings put on hold. Tell me about that.
In May, in mid-May, we were able, as many places, venues, to open on the sidewalk and then in the street.
Yes.
And so a number of performers were, including Christine Petty, and some, were able to step onto the sidewalk and perform for everyone sitting there. It was like the old days, we'll do a show wherever we are, even if it's in the middle of 46th Street, and pedestrians walk by and everything. But of course, it was only a fraction of the business and the audiences we would have had if all 4 rooms of Don't Tell Mama were open for business.
Sure, of course. And I applaud any business owner. As a person who owned a restaurant in New York, I walk by every restaurant now and just think, I hope that you can survive this time. But Don't Tell Mama, also between you and Michael Stever, who is such a wonderful videographer and artistic videographer, you two got some business generated by having virtual performances. Is that right?
Yes, Michael is an extraordinary filmmaker and videographer, and has worked on many cabaret videos as well as films. And the DVD that the Mabel Mercer Foundation commissioned of mine was filmed by, oh my goodness.
I have it already. I'm doing a whole pitch for it. So
well, thank you. Well, yeah. he filmed that, and yes, as a number of other clubs too. But we were able to film people in our original showroom, and it would have the setting and the lighting and all the the atmosphere of doing a performance sans audience. And that was a lovely contribution to this time when everyone is wanting to express themselves and come to you. So that was a blessing.
One of the reasons why these interviews for Sunday Sessions have been so successful and powerful is that people want to see you. When Marilyn May came onto our Sunday Session series, nobody had seen her in a really long time, and they just wanted to see her and make sure, and she was talking about the business that she lost and the shows that she was hoping to do. And a lot of, for many people, performing virtually is very, very difficult. I think it was Melissa Errico that said, it's all fine, but you go out and you do your opening number. That's the hardest part. And then after your opening number is over, crickets, right? You just have to sort of remember what it sounded like to get applause and then get back into it.
Well, speaking of Marilyn May, Carolyn, the viewers should know that her fabulous interview with you, which contains many of her career clips, all your former broadcasts are on YouTube. And that's a great resource. It isn't just over and out. People can, still watch them and learn from them.
And get to know somebody personally. I also want to just say that Michael Stever did, he filmed and interviewed. He always goes the extra mile. And for the American Songbook Association, he came to the venue where I was doing the Johnny Mercer Jamboree with a group of 9 middle school kids that only had sung in their lifetime hip hop. They had no idea. Eric Eve Garcia and I worked with them for 3 months, and they were magical. And we called Michael, and he made a film about it and did his unbelievably beautiful work, interviewed the board, interviewed the kids' parents, and the audience of 80 people watching them. And he just did an absolutely glorious job. So, and this is actually something that I may have a viewing party with some of my students from the ASA. This is actually, Michael Stever filmed this. It was produced by the Mabel Mercer Foundation. Yes, it was an idea that came up between Steve Ross, the wonderful Steve Ross. There's another one that you need to look up and watch, and KT Sullivan, who is the executive director of the Mabel Mercer Foundation. And they knew that Sidney needed to be recorded. These songs and him and his own brand of comedy, his own style. This DVD is actually a fundraiser for the Mabel Mercer Foundation, and it can be found at mabelmercer.org, right? And
yes.
also on Amazon.
Well, yes, and thank you for that. The genesis of it was Steve Ross, the Prince of Cabaret, and also, may I add, this year's winner of the Lifetime Achievement Award in the Provincetown Cabaret Festival.
Oh, well deserved. Yeah.
Wonderful. He and the great critic Alex Cohen went to KT, and they said they had an idea for a CD for me, because I had not, except for doing like the cabaret conventions and variety shows, I had not done my own act in 25 years because I was so busy applauding for all of you. Because when it comes down to it, I am a fan, first and foremost. I am a fan. And I have to admit, as glittering my memories of my own performing, and I have so many lovely memories, my greatest memories in my life are seeing others perform. And when I think back, I mean, I have in my mind of seeing Josephine Baker, live, and Marlena Dietrich, and, all the Peter Allen and Bing Crosby, all these people live, Alice Faye. I mean, it's just the best thing in the world. And when Katie first approached me about it, I said a CD. I didn't know if I would come across in the one dimension of sound. And then they came back to me and said, well, what if we film you? You're a vaudevillian. You need to be seen. At least you didn't say you need to be explained. So that's how that all happened.
Well, there is so much to see, and it's all tied up. One of the things that I remember thinking about you when I moved to New York in 1997, which was relatively late in the game for New York City Cabaret, but it was at a zenith, I felt, because I was new to it. And Irv Rabel gave me a job at 88's. So I was able to see all these shows for free. And I got to see Sally Mays in Story Hour. I got to see Karen Mason and Natalie Gamzu and all these wonderful performers, Philip Officer, and Jay Rogers. And I really cut my teeth on that and performed at Don't Tell Mama also, and got the talk from Sidney, which I recommend. Everybody needs to get the talk in Sidney's office. I won't give away what that is because I want all of these young people that are watching to come in and have the talk with you. It's a beautiful memory, and the words ring true. A couple of them have questions for you. One of them is, did you ever want to do anything else other than perform?
It was always the dream of my heart. Mm-hmm. And I feel that in one way, folks are luckier if they do, because if you do have other interests to that extent, the more possibilities you have, the more options for happiness. Yeah. So for me, it was like the only game in town always. Yeah. And I believe that to survive this business, one needs to be in it for the long haul, because there's so much personal, disappointment and rejection. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's you. What I mean is, if you make a product or something and people don't like it, there is some separation. Yeah, but if you're the one that's not taken, it's hard to sort of survive. In everyone's career, the greatest stars have had ups and downs, but they stay with it because it's the only road for them.
Yeah. Well, and it's a very interesting thing too. Things are different in this country than in, for instance, England. And I remember there was a time, I don't know if you remember this, in the late 90s or just at the turn of the millennium, when every show on Broadway was a British show. The Weir, Judi Dench was on anyway, it doesn't matter. But the point is, Amy's View, that's what I was thinking about. There were all sorts of Brits on Broadway, and they had a big party, and I remember being invited, and I remember speaking to a much older English gentleman, and I said something about, well, if I haven't made it by the time I'm 35 or something like that, I'll just hang it up. And he cocked his head and looked at me and said, what else would you do? Like for him, it wasn't a question of getting to a certain point. This is what he did, and I remember thinking, I don't know, it was a very interesting moment. And I think it's lucky that it worked out the way that it did for you. I'm so glad that it's what you wanted to do. And that
Well, I want to, if I may, jump onto that because it rings a bell with me. I've booked people that were younger than 8 and over 80, but whatever their chronological age, they're often their first New York experience and exposure is on the Don't Tell Mama stage. Or back when Panache. In any event, there was a gentleman who must have been in his 60s, and he had been a very successful businessman, but he had been, the Second World War, and his family always came first. He was self-made. He grew this business from nothing, and, it became mega. Anyway, finally in his 60s, he said, I always wanted to perform. And he sang well, and he hired a band and got a fine director. And he started performing, one might say, late in the day. And he was a ball. We had a wonderful time with him. And all his shows sold out because everyone knew him. Well, during this period, at one point, I was at Town Hall watching a show. And at intermission, I was talking to a friend, and the friend had brought a lady with her. And this lady was very upscale, you could tell, in Park Avenue. And when I was introduced to her, she said, oh, don't tell Mama, I know someone that sings there. And I said, well, who? And she mentioned this gentleman's name. And I said, ah, yes. And she said, her whole attitude sort of changed. And she said, tell me, do you really think he's going to make it? And I was so astonished by just that whole attitude and everything. And I don't know where the words even came from, but I said, I believe that anytime anyone is doing what they love, they're making it.
I could not agree with you more. And I think, as you say, the gift of time makes that more and more clear. The sponsor of this Sunday Session series, who is also on the board of the American Songbook Association, I don't think would mind me telling you that he recorded his first CD at 70. He recorded his 10th CD at 79, and James Gavin wrote the liner notes because he sounds so much like Chet Baker. His name is Norm Drubner. He has befriended Will Friedwald. He has befriended, and he's recording a CD this year. And people say, gosh, how come you sound so good at 81? And he says, because I'm not tired. But as far as I'm concerned, if you're doing what you love and you are fulfilled and you've made it, that's successful. I do want to show, well, actually, I'm not going to show it because it's in the magazine and I want people to see it, but I do want to show one photo of you with Marilyn and with Michael so that people can see who we're talking about. There's Mr. Michael Lee Stever and the wonderful Marilyn May. And she just did a terrific show at the Wick Theater celebrating her 93rd birthday.
Yes, and the week before, she had taped a filming at 54 Below, right, which is going to be seen. And she remains an inspiration to us all, a friend to us all, and just such a positive example of keeping the wheels turning.
Yeah. And I said Susie Mosier, she's not good. She's not a good singer for 93. She's a great singer for any. I mean, she sounds amazing right now. It's brilliant.
Everything, the entire package.
Yeah. Well, and talking about somebody with, I think, a similar philosophy as you, here we have the wonderful Julie. And I just love this picture because clearly how you feel about her is terrific, and her in your arms. Julie is so missed. I miss Julie. And a lady that I miss, she's running around and doing all sorts of things, but Katie and Sidney together.
Yes.
Katie has been a major, major fan. Now, I want to ask you about this last picture here, because is this when you were playing Dolly?
Yes.
Because I thought I saw you. Did you have different headdresses for Dolly? Because I saw you one night doing Dolly, and you were in a fabulous sort of bonnet type thing. I didn't.
I'm trying to think. I did in the fabulous Ricky Ritzel's Broadway.
I know.
It was. I think it's the only place anyone would have thought of me for it. But it's he does these evenings of Broadway musicals and casts them himself. I've been Dolly Levi. I've been Mame. I was
Hook.
a Captain Hook, and perhaps one of my most a dream come true, Desiree Armfeld in A Little Night Music.
That is just too wonderful. So great. Ricky Ritzel's Broadway is something that I think it's going to be a joyful, joyful day when that comes back. So
yes, and he was doing unconventional casting before it was fashionable.
Who brought this all to my attention was Jay Rogers, who often popped up in this, and every time my life, whether it was running a restaurant or raising a kid or running a business of any sort, I can't get to the clubs the way that you can. But when I do, I always try to catch something like Ricky Ritzel's Broadway, because I know I'm going to see 6 people on that stage that are just magical, and it's so much fun. So much fun.
And one of a kind.
And one of a kind. Always one of a kind, which is the thing which is the best thing about Cabaret. If it is the best thing, it is the most wonderful thing when it is unique to a point of mind-blowing, spectacular uniqueness. That's so terrific. Now, tell me what you think, and this is simply a prediction on your part about, so nobody's going to hold you to it, is what I'm saying. But what do you think the future holds? For instance, this summer, what is New York State predicting for Don't Tell Mama, and the owners and you? What do you think we're going to have in terms of?
Well, as of April 15th, our piano bar was open inside. We have a piano bar, 2 showrooms, and a restaurant. And then in the beginning of May, our original showroom is being opened. And it seems, as we're going along, it was 10 o'clock this summer, then it became 11 o'clock, the curfew. Now it's midnight. The capacities are rising. So fingers crossed, it will only go in that direction.
Yeah, I'm very much hoping so. And by the fall, I think even better. We had another question here. I forgot. Oh, is there any? This is not a impassioned plea to Ricky Ritzel. It's just do you have any role that you would particularly like to play? If Mr. Producer came and offered you something, is there anything on your bucket list? If not, it's okay. That was just a question that was posed by one of our kids.
Oh, well, I'm very open to anything. And there's a film series on Amazon Prime that did like a television series of the last 2 years called a wonderful, touching story called After Forever.
Oh, yeah.
And it's won 6 Emmys, including Best Drama and things, and Katie Huffman stars and Kevin Spirtus. And one scene, each season, they're little 10-minute episodes. And it's 90 minutes a season. And they've done 2. They were going to do 3 at COVID time. The point is, in each season, there is a scene at Don't Tell Mama. And I am in the scene as myself. You see this entire cast list of everyone playing everything, and then it says Sidney Myer himself. And I think, well, who else could I be? But anyway I can get on stage, I'm appreciative.
So we can find After Forever on
Amazon Prime, and it's remarkable because it is a love story of 2 men and their families, and they're in their 40s and 50s, and it was rare to see, and they're dealing with life in all its components, and I think the subject matter is very timely, and love is love.
Yeah, absolutely. one of the things I was just saying to a good friend who hadn't seen the program Schitt's Creek. I don't know if you've seen that with Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy and Daniel Levy. Is that they treat the gay relationship like any other relationship to a point where it's poignant. There's never a raised eyebrow. It's just a relationship, a wedding, and it's treated like, and the fact that they never, ever, ever point out the fact that it is a gay relationship makes it's a glimpse into a future way of thinking and accepting that would make me weep every time I watched it.
Yes. And After Forever is identical. I mean, if you go back 10, 20, 40 years, it was unimaginable that it would just be as it is.
Well, and as the mother of a teenage son who you have watched since he sprang to life, I'm very hopeful for the world. Teenagers are very, very, the ones anyway that are in my son's realm are an open and accepting and interested lot of people.
Well, I was at your baby shower and you get 4 stars for motherhood.
Well, he now towers over me and has many, many of his own ideas and opinions, and most of them I admire. So I feel pretty good about that. Sidney, I'm hoping, I don't know if do you ever teach? Have you ever done a master class?
Well, it's funny. In the 1980s at Panache, a school came to me and asked me if I would teach a cabaret class. And I did. And they had a show at Panache and it went well. And through the years, I have been asked many times to teach and direct. I mean, usually after my shows, people come and say, "Oh, will you direct my act?" Well, I have a great director who I've worked with for almost 50 years named Peter Schlosser. But, there's so many great schools and teachers and from the Eugene O'Neill to the Signasium, there's so many real directors. That's their craft. Marilyn Mays, all these teachers, Lena, Helen Baldessari. That's not my domain. However, I have been asked to the Provincetown Cabaret Festival this year. Last year, I was very touched to receive their Lifetime Achievement Award. And this year, I'm going back to do their gala show, and I am teaching a master class with the divine.
Doing a wonderful job up there. She's getting.
She's great.
Yeah.
And with me, riding side saddle with me is Tracy Stark, the incredible musical director, who is just a gift.
She is absolutely wonderful, and I agree. There are so many resources in New York. You've got Lenny Watts at Signasium, Lena Katrakis, you've got Jay Rogers. There are some incredible directors out there doing wonderful things. However, I may hold you to maybe just coming to one of my students' concerts and then speaking to them afterwards. You don't have, if you don't feel like teaching, you don't have to, but you can do what you do, which is encourage in the most authentic and real way. And it would be hard. We've come to an hour, which just blows my mind. I could talk to you and I remember those Friday lunches and I want to have them again. I could talk to you for hours and hours, but the gift that the cabaret community in New York and Chicago and all other places that where you have performed and been such an iconic hit is your authentic support and encouragement. Nobody feels that you're blowing smoke. You do see incredible beauty in people when they are being their authentic selves. And you have supported this community more. I'm going to get emotional. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to thank you for being here. And I'm going to play a clip to end our interview. Please, everybody, go ahead and get this DVD from the Mabel Mercer Foundation or from Amazon. Go ahead and for $65, become a member of the American Songbook Association. And as a benefit of membership, you get the Cabaret Scenes magazine, a full year subscription. Sidney, I know that I will see you again. All of our viewers will as well. Thank you so much for spending the afternoon with us.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you. It's been so much fun. And to play him off, I'm going to have him singing to you in a way that I think really defines Sidney's message to all of us in general. This is from the musical Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. This is David Yazbek's tune. So beautiful, as told by Sidney Myer.
Look at the way the moon behaves. Look at the way she paints a silver ribbon on the waves. One thing I've learned and I'll share with you: nothing is too wonderful to be true. Each moment opens like a flower. The age of miracles comes every hour on the hour. Turn any corner, there's something new, and nothing is too wonderful to be true. If I'm perceived to be naive, to be the way I am, if people say I am a silly goof, is life a plateful? Am I grateful? Every day I am. It's an amazing world in which we live, and I've got living proof. Look at the way the moon behaves. Look at the way she paints a silver ribbon on the waves, leading directly to me and you. And nothing is too wonderful to be true. And when it seems your hopes and dreams are on the run again, bad luck has won again, and it won't stop. The clouds will part and you will start to see the sun again, and life's a ball. You're standing tall. You found your way back to the top. Breathe in and taste the ocean breeze. Look at the way the leaves are dancing in the banyan trees. Listen to what they are saying to you. Nothing is too wonderful. Nothing is too wonderful. Nothing is too wonderful to be true.
Lovely.
And that is precisely how it's done. Thank you so much for spending this afternoon with us. I'm Carolyn Montgomery for the American Songbook Association. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.